I'm so glad you decided to join us today. This is the Words for Life podcast. I am your host, T. Farrell. And again, I'm so glad you decided to join us. We have an amazing show and a very important topic today. But before I get started, I wanted to ask you, I always forget this, that's why I write it down. I want to ask you to like the podcast. You're here, like it, take 2 seconds, like the podcast, subscribe if it's been a blessing to you, and follow us. Follow us where follow the podcast. You can follow us on social media. Be More Today. It's Be More the number 2 day. That's on Instagram and on Facebook. The Words for Life podcast is under the Be More Today umbrella, so you'll find us there. You can also find us on our website, BeMoreToday.com. It's all spelled out. Now that we got all of that out the way, have a good friend with me today. And want to introduce her. Her name is, she goes by B. Renee. And just in case you don't know who B. Renee is, let me read a couple of things here. She's a recording artist and songwriter. I've worked with her personally. She's the author of What If He Dies? She's an Air Force veteran, a Sunday school teacher, and the founder of the Two Village, a widows and widower group that she started. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, help me welcome B. Renee. How you doing, B. Renee?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been a minute since we saw each other.
I know. But it's like family. Even though it's been a minute, when we come back, it's like we didn't miss a beat.
Yes. I forgot to tell the audience that you have such a wonderful spirit. It's so energetic. I love to play. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, you and I, we're like laughing buddies and partners. We love to smile and all that kind of stuff. So, but I've been good, in this COVID season and racial unrest and gun violence, and every time you're adding something else to it, I've been doing okay. Thank God for being in my life. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Sometimes I can't watch too much of the news. It'll put you in the wrong frame of mind.
Absolutely. Like they say, whatever goes in your eye gates or your ear gates goes into your spirit. So I had to back off too, because I became like crazy, just really involved in it. And it was just becoming too much.
Yeah, definitely. But today I brought you on because I wanted to talk about the tough topic of grief. And I know you just wrote the book, What If He Dies? So I want to ask you, tell us a little bit more about the book.
Okay, well, I don't want to tell too much because just in case anybody hears this and they want to purchase the book.
Yes.
So I'll just give little nuggets. It's a book that I actually did not decide to write. The Lord told me to write it. And at the time he spoke to me, I hadn't even begun the grieving process yet. So I actually didn't start on the book until, it'll be 8 years, September. And I didn't start on the book until maybe just 2 years ago because it was just too much to relive. I would relive and have to think about all the horrible scenarios, him in the hospital and the back and forth and, watching the weight loss. And then I would grieve for all the good times that we had when I was writing the book. So, it was bittersweet, but God told me to write it and he gave me the title. So I'm like, Lord, what if he dies? I know I'm the dramatic one. I know I'm full of drama and all that. I said, but that's a dramatic title. But even when I would go to change it and try to think of something else because I am the creative brain, I couldn't come up with anything. But God has a reason for that title, because I believe what happens is that title pulls people in and it's intriguing. Because from the title, if you don't really know my story or don't know me, it could be a rhetorical question like, well, maybe he's here and she's thinking about if he passes. There's like, in order to understand the question, they have to buy the book.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, I'm sure, know about marketing and all that stuff, whether it's music or whatever, you have to catch them with the packaging,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the title, all of that matters. And then what will get them to become a fan is what they hear or read.
Okay.
So that's just giving you a little bit about the book. I don't want to talk too much about the details, but that's how it all got started. God told me to write because I wasn't thinking about doing that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I had here for you to tell a little bit about your testimony, but I'm feeling like that might give away the book too much too, or you could tell a little touch
I
of it.
can tell a little bit. The testimony has a lot to do with what's in the book, but the one thing the Lord kept reminding me when I've had people say, I want to buy the book, but I'm scared to read it, the title, and I recognize you're a widow. I remind them that the purpose of the book is less about my loss and more about God's presence throughout my journey.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you there's some things in that book that God had prepared me way before my husband passed. In 2000, the Lord had prepared me for my husband's death, and I didn't even realize it. And he died 2012.
Mm.
So, the little bit I will mention, he passed because of complications to 9/11. And, he ended up with cancer 3 times. By the 3rd time, his body just couldn't take all of that anymore. But I'm so involved and I'm so engrossed in, and I always, God seems to remind me that remember how I was with you before the journey started all the way up to now. So this book is relatable in the sense that no matter what life-changing experience that you're going through, God is there. Mm-hmm. And his faithfulness is present. Like I said, for me, I'm so glad that I have a relationship and had a relationship before I ended up in the Valley experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times that makes a difference on where you go next.
Right. Right.
And, just to give that tidbit about, like I said, it's because of the cancer. But my biggest thing that I speak on is that, yes, I'm human. I cry at times. But God was with me the whole time. And I spoke to him throughout my whole journey when my husband found out he had cancer. And in the book, I don't go into the details of that. I don't think that's important.
Right.
I set the foundation as to why he passed, but I didn't get into any details about doctor's visits and, some of the symptoms. That's not, there's enough people that we all know somebody or been through it. So we know that.
Right.
About cancer. So I didn't want to get so down into that. So it was really the foundation that he passed due to that. But then we moved on to where God had brought me after he passed. And then I talk about how we met, all the good stuff as well. So it comes full circle,
mm-hmm.
So it's, from the 200 and some odd people that's already gotten the book, the reviews are incredible. I mean, people said I couldn't put it down. Oh my God, when are you going to do another book? And so that's been encouraging.
That's good. That's really good. Now, I actually touched on this this topic in, I think it was episode 2 with another friend of mine, Dillis. But my question is, sometimes when you ask God for something, you ask God for a specific outcome, and you're a believer, right. And where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, he'll be in the midst, and you pray expecting a certain outcome.
Right.
When that outcome doesn't happen,
right.
What kept you? Because sometimes it's difficult to now pray the next prayer with as much conviction, because it's like, well, you didn't answer. You're God. You're going to do what and you still honor him as God. But it's like, if you're going to do what you're going to do, how am I going to pray saying, I command this to happen? And it's like, no, I don't. You do whatever you want.
Right. I'm glad that you brought this up because I had to think about that, and God gave me a revelation. And I believe, though the Lord told me to write the book right after he passed, there were some revelations that had to be open to me before I could really write the book. So there, a lot of answers I'm giving you, some things in the book, but I'm still not telling it all. But I'm glad you asked that, because First of all, my husband ended up in the hospital the last 3 weeks, and the Lord would have me. I used to tell my daughter, I'm not going down there just to shoot the breeze. Meanwhile, I'm expecting him to live. Mm-hmm. But I went down there to minister to him. I said, because, hospital TV, they don't really have Christian stations. He was too weak to open the Bible and read it himself. So I would go down there and read the word and pray over him. I did my best solo concerts. In the room with him, I would sing to him, I need thee, oh, I need thee. I'll say, yes, Lord. Whatever, some of those old songs that get in your spirit.
Yes.
Just that might not be so wordy, but those old songs that really come from your heart to the heart of God. Mm-hmm. And I realized after, not only was God building up him spiritually, he was building me up spiritually for what was about to take place. Mm-hmm. And the Lord also revealed to me that when this journey started, it was me, my husband, and God together walking, traveling. Mm-hmm. And every morning, because my husband was sick for like a good 9-10 months before he went home to be with God. He couldn't work after, I think it was Christmas of 2011, and he never went back because he passed September of 2012. But every morning I would wake up and say, where are we on this journey? Are you still believing? Because I'm not going to pray against his will.
Right.
And the Lord showed me how after a certain point, and I put this in the book, and as I'm writing, the Lord was revealing how to put this, because I knew a lot of people had that question, because they knew Renee's a prayer warrior. She down there at the hospital, she praying her husband through. I even had gotten to the point, I said, Lord, even if he die in the hospital, I'm coming in there and I'm going to pray and you're going to raise him from the dead. And I was settled and I kept going on my way, kept going on my way. So when he passed and the Lord revealed to me later, when I was open enough to hear, because when you're grieving, you ain't open enough. Listen, the only way to get through grief is to grieve. So until I was healthy enough to hear what God had to tell me concerning this, God knew, okay, let her get through this. And then so I could talk to her where she's a little more settled in her spirit. She's at a point where she recognizes that, okay, I'm a widow. This is where we are. And God could deal with me with the book. But he said, there was a point where the three of us were walking. He said, after a while, you had to be left behind. It was just me and your husband walking. And we had a discussion. And we made a determination. And the two of us together decided it was time for him to go home, which had nothing to do with me. So even though I was praying for him to stay here, why? For my selfish reasons. I wanted my man here, and I wanted Heather's father to still be here. I wanted my covering in this human earthen realm to be here. So, and they were okay, selfish reasons. But the Lord revealed to me there was a point where him and I decided, and my husband was ready to go, that had nothing to do with me. And when I recognized that, and that revelation came upon me, I was good. Because he was eternally healed.
Right.
Because we know that sickness is a curse of the Lord. And God sent his son who became a curse on the tree. So even though my husband's body was just didn't agree and didn't act right, he still didn't die and stay sick. He dropped all that flesh where the illness was. So we still win. And I believe, and nobody can tell me different, because, this walk with God is ever so personal. I tell people my husband and our journey is not the whole story. It's a part of the journey. What was greater than that is that from him going home, the Lord entrusted me with a ministry, first a book, and then a ministry for widows and widowers that needed someone to be that support and say, you know what, for those that, like you said, that might turn away from God, here I am. I understand that loss. I understand that relational loss of a husband where two become one, and now there's a ripping and a tearing. That's a relationship like none other, because in the Bible, that's the only relationship where two become one.
Right.
So God, the bigger picture of why we're here is to glorify, magnify, and worship and bring more people into the kingdom. But we also know that people who lose loved ones, sometimes they fall away.
Right. Yes.
So I came to terms with, yes, I still miss my husband in his flesh because I'm wrapped in it. But I always say, well, Lord, if he stayed here, I don't want him here sick. But so the other alternative is that he's well and he's with you. And eventually I'm going to go to him. I'm going to go to you. So while he's with the Lord, I'm working for the Lord. And that sounds all deep and stuff now, but I can tell you it was rough in the beginning. Yes, I cried. I cried a lot because, you know, you have to get that out.
Right.
But, you know, healing is a choice. Healing is a discipline. And we that are saved and filled with the Holy Ghost and God is our Father, how dare we not take advantage of him sending his son to die on the cross, not just for our salvation, not just for our physical healing, but for our grief as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he gave us the tools, and anything worth having, and for me, what was worth having was getting healed.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant it took work. The first day I came home after looking at my husband's body, I looked at my father and said, I can't wait to heal. I made that statement out of my mouth. Did I go through some, oh my God, it got worse before it got better, the grieving. But even with that, I would get up and go to work. I think after 2 weeks, I went to work. My daughter went back to school. And I said, you know what? I'll get up, even if I'm crying, get dressed, do my hair, go out and smile, take care of my patients. And you know what? My feelings caught up with my actions.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said, and I've heard before that healing is a choice, but I've never heard somebody say healing is a discipline.
Yes. Yes. That's like, for instance, a lot of times we might not, if people are real, you don't always feel like reading the word of God, but we know we need it to sustain us and to grow.
Yes.
So we have to make that time. And with anything, not just the Bible, you want to become a doctor, you have to discipline yourself and say, I can't hang out with my friends because, and discipline is doing something you don't want to do to get where you want to get. Mm-hmm. So for me, I would have rather, if I went with my feelings, stay in the bed probably for the next year. Mm-hmm. This man I was with for 35 years.
Right.
You know, we dated 9 years. He waited for me to get out the Air Force, and we were married for 26 years. That's a lot of that. We were together more than I was single.
Right.
You know, so when I say it's a discipline, that meant you've made this choice to heal. That means you got to get up. You're going to go to work. You're going to plan your life. You're going to plan. When his birthday came around, our anniversary, I made plans before that so I wouldn't be stuck out there. Just what do I do? Oh my God, it's his birthday. It was our anniversary. I was intentional.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that leads me to, because I was going to ask, and you probably touched on some of them, the keys to moving forward from grief. Because a lot of people, and grief is it's a serious thing. It's some things that people try to muff sometimes, and they get back home, and then that's when they fall apart. They don't like to do it in public, or they don't like to talk about it. But there's got to be some keys to moving forward. I guess being intentional is one of them.
Right. Well, you know, one thing I would say, because I think you just said about healing and, you know, they don't want to be in public. I tell people it is a very private thing. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I think I put on Facebook the other day, because I do my own marketing for my books. So I always change it up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes and the Lord will give me certain things to say. And I said, while I was typing, I said, grieving is very private and intimate. I said, unless you have one of those suddenlies. And when I say suddenly, I mean, you could be in the supermarket, walking down the street. It could be nothing that reminded me of him or something that did. And all of a sudden, it's like an acute pain. And you can't help but all of a sudden release it. Outside of that, I know there were days I couldn't wait to get home so I can go cry in my pillow. But, you know, it is. And I always tell people, do not compare how you grieve to how somebody else should do it. Even if it's the same relational loss, because there's so many variables, personality, the relationship you have with the person, you cannot. So that's one of the things I always even tell people. But what was your question again? Because I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, my question was the keys for people moving forward from grief, and you're touching on it. You are.
Oh, okay. I got so much to say, but we cannot at all forget the foundation to moving forward. the Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, you know, people be like, that's cliche-ish. Call it whatever you want.
Right.
But God is real. Him being a comforter is real. Him being a helper to move forward, it's real. The one thing that I was always very conscious of, even though I said like grieving is intimate, you can't isolate yourself. Because when you isolate yourself, you know, like close people off. And don't get me wrong, going through grief, there are going to be times where I couldn't wait to get home and be by myself. But during the day, I was working around people. Right. But, you know, you have to be careful. When you get to that point where you know you don't want to get out the bed, you ain't combing your hair, you don't want to talk to anybody, you really need to seek help, because if depression is setting in. And that could be, so my thing was support. I had church support, family support. If you need to go to therapy, I'm one that didn't, but I believe in it.
Okay.
I definitely believe in therapy.
I was going to ask you about that.
Absolutely. Listen, the therapist and my Holy Ghost is going in the same direction. They both want us healed.
Right.
And it's okay to talk it out. Because of my personality, I was always one to talk it out anyway. So, and that's basically what a therapist does. So my thing is, whoever I could find to talk, I would always talk about my husband, you know, at work, my church family, my family. I had a lot of support, and I'm one of those people that when I'm going through something, I gravitate towards people. That's what I do. Even though, like I said, I had my intimate moments, because my worst times in the day was when it was time to go to bed and he wasn't there.
Right.
You know, so, but I would say the Lord Jesus Christ, don't isolate yourself. Be intentional on those special days that come around every 365 days. Like I told my daughter today, I said, I'm getting ready. September 5th is the day he passed. September 11th was his the date of his funeral, which was also 9/11, the reason he died. His birthday, October 6th, all of this right behind each other. My birthday is Thanksgiving. We would always go away. And then you got the holidays. So I'm very intentional. And then we were married on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
So I always, you know, Mother's Day, Father's Day, I'm always making a plan, my daughter and I. And believe it or not, that helps. Even if I plan to just go to the cemetery and then we just go to eat. But I make a plan. I never get up and say, oh, I don't know. I'm very intentional right now. I have to be. Because if I don't, I feel like I'm just susceptible to anything, any thoughts. Whereas I go in with a plan. Okay, you plan to go to cemetery, or you and your daughter plan to go upstate, whatever. So these are some of the things that help me get through it. Like I said, therapy is important. Whenever the church doors open, I would go. Even while people were praising God, hands up and crying, I might have the hands up in my hands, and I was crying because I was in pain for my husband. Either way, I was in the mix.
Right.
And either way, if I was crying for my husband, the atmosphere of healing was in the room. So all of that. And then I had, for me, I said, God, I can't go down. I got a daughter watching me. And that in itself gave me fuel to keep going, because I said, I've preached and talked to her about who God was. And great is he that's in me. Right. And even though she saw Mom and we both cried, I also had to show her that the enemy comes to steal everything while you're down. I said, you give him that little bit of room and that door is ajar so he can get in there and start. I said, but we're not going to allow that. So through my actions, I showed her that I still have ministry and you still have ministry. And if I die in this, I'm telling God, I've made my husband a God. And I wasn't trying to do that. There's a difference in grieving and longing for him and missing him than stopping everything, your assignment. Don't get me wrong, you might have to pause, obviously. But there's a point where you have to get up like who was it? David after his son. Wash your face, put your clothes on, and get moving and allow God to strengthen you because you have an assignment. Right. So I remembered, wait a minute, you sing the gospel. You got to do what you do. What he gave me to do wasn't just for everybody else. I had to do what he gave me to do during that time that helped me heal. So all of these things came into play that I knew my daughter was watching me. Because if I went down, she would be down. And then the whole family be down. I'm like, devil, you lie. And I knew my parents were watching me. My sisters were watching me.
Right.
And I said, no, we're not doing that.
Wow. Now you mentioned, I forgot where I read it. Might have been at the very beginning of the book, but you said your relationship with God changed.
Yes.
Throughout.
Yes. I believe that when something's so life-changing, even if it's not a spouse, if it's the loss of a child, I mean, so many parents I've seen. To me, for me,
Mm-hmm.
there was no middle ground. You either draw near or you draw away.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and I think because the way the journey was and how I used to go in that hospital, I mean, they used to hear me praying in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
They used to hear me singing, I need thee, oh, I need thee. They used to hear me. I used to come in there with my big afro. They used to call me and always smiling, even though I didn't know what I was going to meet when I saw my husband in that room. But I used to come in, even when they called me and said he's on a respirator. When I came in, they were watching to see. I wasn't smiling, but I was like, good morning. Hi, how's everyone doing? And I went in there and the doctors were in there. And I looked at my husband. I said, you can't open your mouth and say a word. I said, but the wonderful thing about the Lord is that he's spirit, and speak to him from your spirit. And I said, while you're speaking to him from your spirit, because he had the ventilator thing all the way down, I said, I'm going to pray for you. And there was about 4 or 5 doctors. I didn't even ask them to go. After a while, I did what I want to talk to them. And I began to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so before he even passed, God had built me up spiritually for what was to come.
Right.
You know, I thought I was going to the hospital just to build my husband up because he was going to get healed and he was going to be here. And this was to keep his faith up, you know, keep on believing. But it was doing more than that. It was building him up to go meet the Lord. And it was building me up for after he goes to meet the Lord. So after he passed, I never wavered in that. I remember somebody one time said to me, he said, don't be surprised if you angry at God.
Mm-hmm.
And I get what he meant, but I was surprised from him because he knew how I was when it came to God. I understand with some people, they do get angry because they don't understand this whole thing. You know, those are the people a lot of times that blame God for hurricanes and shootings and stuff, forgetting that the enemy is the little g God down here.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets into the systems and God gives us free will. And people either listen to God or listen to the devil to do shootings, whatever. And you know, God gives us free will. He gave us free will whether to choose him or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, I never got angry at God. I got angry at cancer. I got angry at just my circumstance at different times when I couldn't figure things out. And I used to, you know, I missed my husband from doing, but I never got angry at God. Never. I cried. You know, I was disappointed. I would say, you know what, Lord, I miss him. I don't understand. And this was before God revealed to me, you know, him taking him and what I needed to do. I don't understand why you had to take him, but God, I trust you. I would speak out loud while I was crying, boo-hooing. And I spoke out loud on purpose because I wanted the enemy to hear me saying it. He can't read our thoughts.
Right.
So I'd be in the house, God, I thank you. I'm hurting. I'm in pain. I don't think I'm going to make it, but I trust you. Whatever you allow, God, I need you. And there were some nights I would go to bed and say, you know what, Lord, I don't feel like talking to you tonight. I'm in too much pain.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
God understands.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. And a couple of episodes before, we were talking about that. And God, He can handle it.
Yes.
When you have a relationship and you go, you know what, God, I'm really not happy about what you just did right now. He can handle it.
I can. Yeah, right. I don't understand it. I just don't want to talk to you. And I equated it with if you have a child that's sick. They're in the bed. They don't feel like coming laying on you. Say, Daddy, I love you. Mommy, I love you. So sweet. Can you buy this for me? I want this. They're too sick to utter a word. But you as a parent knows your child still loves you. That has nothing to do with it, that they don't feel like talking.
Right.
So during that time, I was sick from grief. And that's how that's how I quit. I said, when your child is sick, they're too sick.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually when they begin to get well and feel better, all those things you're used to hearing, they're going to come back with it. God, I love you. God, I need you. God, I adore you. Then you start asking, you know what, God, I need you to help me figure out this bill. Because, but when you ain't asking for nothing, you ain't giving no praise. But that does not negate the fact that you love him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I really love your relationship, the relationship you have with God. Just to sit and chat about it, I really love it. I really love it. It's so authentic and real. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit because
Sure.
grief
Yeah.
now, people don't know how to deal with that. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. I find myself sometimes I just avoid the situation and then,
Right.
oh man, I should have called. But if I call, I don't know what to say. I don't want to
What's
say
that?
something stupid. It's one of those things. So what did I write down here? I wrote down. Can you give your opinion on what the best way to console someone when they're going through grief?
I would say listen more, talk less.
Okay.
If you do call them, I would say, I'm just calling. I'm here for you if you just want to express anything, talk out anything. If you want to talk about him, how you're feeling, I'm here for that. If not, I'm just calling to let you know I love you and you're in my prayers. And my thing is, don't ask them how they doing. What you think, how they doing? And sometimes we can't help it because that kind of goes with, hey, how you doing? That's like a hello.
Right.
So, but and that has come out with me. But if you say that, sometimes I'll say, well, you know what? I know how you're doing, but basically, I just want you to know I love you. And now in this texting time, we don't even have to call. There's a friend of mine. You can leave voice messages. Listen, I'm just checking on you. Let you know I love you. You can send texts with quotes, and they have all kind of things. I have a friend of mine that, for my widows group, 53 years old, just passed. My heart heavy. And we have become very close. Died from 4th stage kidney cancer, found out 5 weeks, and then she was gone. I stay in touch with her daughters, who I didn't really know until after this. So I text them maybe once every 3 or 4 days, not overly doing it. I don't know the loss of a mother because I have my mother, and they're young, 28 and 30. They're not married, have no children. Right. But what I do is every couple of days, I don't text how you doing. I'll just text, I love you, thinking about you, praying hands, that's it. Or I'll find a quote sending hugs. And my thing is, don't ever ask them, if you need me, call me. Well, we're not going to call you.
See, I always thought that was the right thing to do or say. It's like,
because think about it. If I'm going through grief and everything, sometimes the grief is so heavy, unless your relationship is that tight, like it's a sister or your brother, that. But if it's somebody a little bit more distant, if you need me, call me, I'll be there. Ain't nobody, no. No, just no.
Right.
Because how many people said that to me, and I'm like, but if you called me, that made me feel special. Even if I didn't answer the phone, but I saw or heard your message, or I saw that it was you that called, even if I didn't answer the phone, that made me feel good that you called me. Because if you're waiting for me to call you, because from day to day, when you're going through grief, you don't know how you're going to feel.
Right.
You don't want to talk. You might want to talk. And if you do talk, you might have sisters, brothers, a best friend. But for all those other people, I'm just a call away. Well, you're going to be away. Because,
right.
Because, realistically speaking, when people, that's like, I didn't even, the girls, when I saw them at the funeral, I said, I'll be checking on you. I never tell them, here's my number, call me if you need me. And maybe I'm more sensitive to it because I lost my husband, that I've learned from it myself. And most people have lost somebody, for God's sake. I'm like, put yourself in that, especially at our age. So my thing is, don't say, if you need me, just call me. It ain't gonna happen. But like you said, people a lot of times don't know what to say. Even if you just say, I'm praying for you, I love you, something, that's good. But no, how you doing today? And me and my sarcastic mouth, what do you think?
Yep. I can hear you saying that too.
Right. So, and then there's times where I tell people, if you call that person, because you said you'll call, don't get upset or if they don't answer the phone. Because let me tell you something, you don't know how you're going to feel. When I talk to my widows and I first meet them, I'll say to them, I'm going to give you a call next week. But I said, let me tell you this. If I call you, you see my number, and you don't feel like talking, do not feel guilty. Don't feel nothing. I said, because you don't know how you're going to feel in the next minute.
Right.
That's if I said, I'm going to call you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock could be a bad time for you.
Right.
I said, so you don't want to talk? Don't answer the phone. No explanation needed. I'm not. So my thing is, we have to just get out of our feelings.
Right.
And, the simple thing, like I said, you don't know, less is best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Send a card, text. There's so many ways without talking to them. Right. Inbox them. Mm-hmm. This way it's safe for you. And inbox them is better. I tell people, get a quote or send hugs or whatever. Then start talking about how you doing. No, don't ask them how you doing. Right. And it could be a good day, but you might ask that on a time when it's not.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got you. Good advice. Good advice. That helped me because sometimes it's just I don't know. And I've had people that I've lost, but like you said, everybody grieves different.
Right.
And I used to feel guilty for the way I grieved because I didn't grieve, I didn't go through an outward process. Yeah, I cried, but it was like, okay, and it's over, because God knows what he's doing. And I should.
And men process things differently than women, too. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I tell people, don't say that men don't grieve their spouses. They just grieve differently, but they grieve.
Right.
And we just have to respect it. You listen, you saw me at my husband's funeral. I did not cry one bit. I laughed. I even danced a little bit around, and people said to me, we were concerned about you because you were doing a lot of smiling. And I put that on Facebook one time. How dare you judge what I was doing? At that time, I was still shocked and numb and couldn't believe it. But trust me, behind closed doors, I was bawling for a long time. So I think that's awful when people judge because, I didn't cry like you did, or she crying too much. She need to get what? No, no.
Yeah. You're right. So I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you breaking all of this down, all of it. You just it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure. What's next on the horizon for B. Renee?
Well, B. Renee, I'm so excited. First of all, the book is doing well, like I said, and God is opening doors. And as I do Zooms and I do podcasts, and then people get in touch with me, because for me, this is not about fame.
Right.
This is about somebody getting healed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the book is going forth. It's just in the beginning of it. I'll always be doing music. I was writing some stuff and some songs with my sister, for my youngest sister. So I've been writing some lyrics.
I heard about that. Yes.
Yeah. And we're still working on the live CD from 2017. Things take time. But the wonderful thing about that, they were all hymns, and hymns are always in order.
Hey.
So no matter when they come out, it'll be timely.
Right.
So that's the wonderful thing about. So that's going to be coming out. My what I'm very excited and happy about is and have birthed from my husband's death. Like you mentioned, the Two Village, TWO, standing for Together We Overcome, and that's a group that was birthed 2 years ago, June 2018, because I would always become so heavy when I learned of a widow or widower, even if I didn't know them. Even if I knew them indirectly because somebody else knew them, it was almost like I would go back through. And I said, Lord, I got to go do something with these feelings. And people don't understand. If you talk to God, God's going to talk back to you.
Yes, he is.
He's going to impress some stuff in your spirit. He's going to give you ideas. He's going to put thoughts in your head. And you just got to get it manifested and put it brick and mortar around it. So I said, Lord, I need to do something. And I'm talking to him because I used to blog. I used to have a blog called The Wow Factor. Mm-hmm. And it was WOWW, Wisdom of a Wife/Widow. And I used to blog, just about my journey with my husband, the importance of life insurance, all kind of stuff. And I fell away from that. But now I have this group that the Lord gave me. And we have about 70 members. And it's a special group. And I said, Lord, you got jokes. You took somebody that likes to laugh and play around all the time and put them in charge of a group that is very sensitive, that's grieving. And you took the girl that just want to ha ha he he and put her over it. But I said, Lord, you're smart. You know what you're doing, because I've been through it, but I'm also a person that is about life and living.
Right.
And moving forward. So this is something I'm very proud of. It's just sad that It's a group that most people don't want to hear about. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to know nothing about it. But the reality is that people are going to die, and a spouse is going to die. And my job is to be there for them, to support them. This group, we undergird them. Our page, we have a Facebook page where there's no judgment. We get on there and we talk natural stuff. You know, I miss my partner in bed. You know, what was your favorite song? We put up pictures. We celebrate everyone's birthday. We remember with that person that passed their birthday, their death day, their anniversary. You know, I put funny stuff up. Sometimes I'll get on there, Terrence, at 10 o'clock at night and go live and just start praying. Whatever God, you know me, I'm very organic and very spontaneous. So whatever God tells me to do. And the wonderful thing is that these people come back and they say, this page blessed me because it's real. We talk real about, we come out of the spirit and talk about what we miss, you know, which is so awesome. And the wonderful thing, most of these people, they're pastors, wives, they're evangelists. We have one lady where her husband got murdered. We have one lady where her husband, just before their first year anniversary, died 2 weeks before. The average age of our widows is maybe 45, 47 years old. Not old people, you know, young. We have people on there that are happy being single for the rest of their life. And the rest of them, I said, if you want to get married on this page, we're going to pray that you get married too. My thing is, we're interested in you in totality, not just talking about your loss.
Right.
But what are you doing in ministry? Where are you going? Where are you headed? What are your goals? What are your dreams? You know, you want to get married again? We're going to pray that you get married again. So it's one of those pages where as you heal and we help you get through it, okay, let's talk about your ministry, because there's too many people in that cemetery that have died with their dreams and goals. And that's worse than anything. Right. There's a whole lot of people where God put an idea and they did nothing with it, and they're in that grave with them. And that is a sad state of affairs. So I'm excited about music. I'm excited about the book. I'm excited about the group. And the next thing I was planning on doing, hopefully when COVID is, doing a one-woman show with excerpts from my book.
Okay, nice.
Yes. Which is another way to bring people to Christ, because it's more about him and less about my loss. So that's some of the stuff I'm doing, man. I'm busy. I'm staying busy.
Yeah, you're doing a lot. You're doing a. All right, so tell the people where they can find you, how they can follow you, or where they can.
Okay, so I am on Facebook, B. Renee Barnes. I'm on Instagram at B. Renee Ministries. That's pretty much, I have, those two pages are the biggest page. I have a page for the Two Village, but anybody that want to get a hold to me, you can inbox me. If you want a book, you can inbox me. Everybody knows that I'm a Facebook junkie. And but you believe it or not, a lot of people have through inbox have asked me for books, told me I've been encouragement to them. So if you want to ask about music, whatever, just inbox me. I'm not one of those that stay away from Facebook for five days. Sometimes I feel like it, but because of ministry's sake, and people have inboxed me at all kind of hours. Not that I answer them in the middle of the night, but I want to get back to people right away. So right. Yes, Facebook B Renee Barnes, and on Instagram at B Renee Ministries.
Nice. Now, but before I let you go, I wanted to ask you to give advice. What advice would you give a person that feels like their relationship with God is in neutral?
And that's the place we don't want to be.
Yeah.
If you feel that, because we've all felt that, regardless of a loss or not, just in this journey as a Christian, we have all felt. So what do? We get back to the very things that we did when we first was introduced to him. It's almost like when I talk to married couples, if you're in a place of neutral with your husband, what did you do when you first met them? You went out to dinner, he bought you flowers, you got dressed up, you look cute, you didn't go around with a rag on your head looking busted and disgusted. Sometimes you have to go back to those things. So with that said, it's the basics. Get back into the word. Put down me, like for instance, I love jazz, but there's times I got to put that down and just get into my gospel music, get into the word. That's where our strength is. Through hymns, singing songs, the word of God. Sometimes I'll go to YouTube videos with some of my favorite preachers. I love Priscilla Schreier. She just touches my soul. I love Elevation Church. My pastor comes up. All those basic things, they really work because we all have moments. I mean, in this COVID season, think about it. The people, I'm the first to tell you, I started having anxiety. I work in the hospital. I'm seeing these patients, on an everyday. When they couldn't figure it out in the beginning, it got so deep for me. I went in the room one day and wrote my daughter a long letter just in case I passed. And I told her, I said, look, I know you don't want to deal with nothing that, but she knows where I have this box where I keep all my information and everything. And I wrote her how much I loved her, where everything, life insurance and all that stuff was. And then I said, wait a minute, devil, you are a lie. I said, wait a minute, I got too much stuff to do for the Lord. It's not time for me to go yet. So guess what? I had to get back into his word, start playing, forget the jazz for the moment, start playing some of the songs that brought me back to that place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Our pastor comes online Wednesday night for Bible study and Sunday mornings, make sure I'm there. All the things that feed the spirit.
Right.
It's really not hard. It's simple. It's a matter of doing it. Yes. You can have the knowledge, but if you don't apply it, you ain't done nothing. It ain't nothing.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I really, again, I appreciate you. I know you've been an inspiration for many. You've been a help. You've given me information that I needed. Everyone go out there, check out B. Renee, inbox her for her book. Again, this has been the Words for Life podcast. If you like what you're hearing, if it has blessed you, share it with somebody, bless somebody else with it. And again, until next week, I'm going to say bye. And before you leave, just in case you missed last week, we're going to give you some excerpts from last week's show. All right. Again, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks again, B. Renee.
Thank you. Take care. God bless you. Love you.
Love you too.
If you are a believer, Ecclesiastes 12:13 is your purpose. Now, how you fulfill that purpose is your calling or your assignment. So for me, I sing and I write songs. That's not the call. Your call is a message, is a concept, is an idea that God wants to use your voice, your life, your mind, your personality, your experiences to express to the world. So it's not like a talent. It's not like a one thing. It is a message. It is a concept. It is an idea that God wants you to highlight and to bring to the forefront. And you're qualified to do so through your personality. I've heard people say, never regret anything. Even if it was bad, never regret anything because it was there to teach you something. And we learn these things. Most of the time, it's not always just for us. It's for somebody else that's coming behind us. It's for somebody else on the side of us. It's for somebody else maybe in front of us. The reason why I think a lot of people have a problem with figuring out what their assignment or their calling is because we have been conditioned to think that we all have a separate purpose, and that is not true. I often say this: God is not some indecisive bipolar God that said, you get a purpose and you get a purpose. He is intentional, and he has a set reason why he created mankind. It is to fear him and to keep his commands. He has a way in which he has ordained you to specifically do that. I want people to really get clear on the difference between your purpose and your calling or your assignment, because it has been ingrained in us to think that they're one and the same, and it's not. I hear a lot of people say that, I thought I was called to just, help the sick, and that's a part of it. That may be the action step, right, that you do, but the overall thing that you want to share with them, or the message, like I said, the concept, the idea, is something different. So for me, I'm gonna give you a complete example. My call, my assignment is to keep the church in remembrance of God's standard for holiness, righteousness, and sanctification. I am clear. I am crystal clear on that. Who I am assigned to is the church. Now, when I say the church, I don't mean the four walls. I mean anybody who knows. So there are some people who had not been born and raised in church. Maybe they were born into a whole other religion. People that don't know God. I'm talking about I'm called to the people that know God, that know of God, the backslidden, those types of people. So you ask God, and you keep asking him. You know, you ask, okay, God, what is my calling? He'll tell you. You might not understand it. You say, okay, Lord, what do I do with that? All right, what do I do next? That's literally it. You ask God and you continue to seek him. And it's so funny because that's literally how I figured out what my calling is. But even to this day, I'm still unfolding new layers of my calling. Every single day, I'm like, oh snap. As I read scripture, as I teach, as I'm talking to just different people, I'm uncovering new layers of that call. And I'm seeing new ways on how to continue to fulfill it. So the call, or the assignment, like I like to call it, is that message. It is that idea. It is that concept that God has qualified you for to share throughout the world to different people. You know, your call also is specific to a group of people. You are called to a group of people, and everybody might not necessarily be called to the same group of people. And then there may be several people that you meet who are called to the same group of people. But until you surrender your life to God, and until you seek God for it, it's not going to be 100% revealed to you, and you'll be on the rat race. And a lot of people get really jacked up because they're like, they know it's something, but they don't know what it is. They're trying all these different things. They get really, really jacked up. So seek God for what it is. Pay attention to the burdens that God puts on your heart, right? The things that you are most passionate about, things that you care about. You know, that is where your call is.